Welcome back to the Best You Nation, where we believe in managing your drive, optimizing 24 hours in a day, and becoming the best version of you. That's right. And now, your global and Instagram influencers, and also your host, Finn and Adler. We hope that you enjoy this podcast today.
Welcome. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Best You Nation with your gentlemen. You have Sir Finn, and you have myself, Adler.
This whole screen thing is crazy. But yes, your boy Finn and your boy Adler. What's going on, guys? How y'all doing today? How are you doing, Adler?
Well, first of all, I'm doing splendid. I'm doing pretty good. We have gotten to the point now. We've been doing this for quite some time now. I think almost 8 months. 8 months now.
8 months, man. 2020, man. 2020 has been a very interesting year. I think there's about 3 normal things that have happened all year.
What are those 3?
We've been podcasting.
Yeah.
We had a tropical storm.
Well, yes, I'm in Georgia, but yes.
Well, yes, you're down here in Florida. That was probably one of the most normal things that's been happening this year.
Yep.
And what is
the beaches? That's what it is.
What's that?
Everyone's back at the beaches.
Yes. Speaking of, I was there this morning.
There it is, right there. So I appreciate the growth, the process that we've gotten to. Last week we were able to speak to the famous Coach Ricks, and it was rewarding. It was special. It was an amazing time. Like we talked about love, right? That was the topic. But love in the sense of leadership, because he's a leader of men. He's a coach. So just kind of interacting with him on that, it was pretty unique. It's pretty spectacular just to kind of hear his take on it. And this season, it's been all about love, right, Finn?
Yeah, and that's what love, and just to piggyback real quick, Coach loved people, still does to this day, on and off the field, and it was interesting because I don't know if you felt this way, man. I felt kind of like a student myself. I know we're hosts of a show, but I still felt like it's like a sensei to his warriors. Like I just felt like we were the ones sitting and actually listening to him talk because he was giving us so much wisdom. He was pouring it out like it was like buckets of wisdom, which obviously here at the Best You Nation, that's what we're really focused on. And yeah, man, it's been an awesome journey. Like you said, I'm excited for what we've already done and what we're going to be going into, which we're set up for some amazing things.
Yeah, we're going to keep that on deal. We're not going to, it's supposed to be a surprise. So,
we don't want to. I forgot. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to expose that. I guess our listeners.
We got. You guys don't. You won't know until it happens. That's the most important thing.
We want to build that anticipation.
Exactly. So one of the things that we talked about, like after we finished with Coach, we kind of fell on the subject matter of loving yourself, and we've kind of discussed it before. But I think we kind of went more in detail of loving yourself when you don't feel worth it, when you don't feel like you're worthy of being loved. And you and I kind of went back and forth about it. And I figured it would be an excellent subject just to kind of go into because we're in just 2020. 2020, depending on the perspective, some might view it as one of the worst years ever because of COVID-19. And just like the crazy things that are happening around the world with, the bombing in Lebanon that happened a few days ago, the social justice movement that's been sweeping our nations, and just everything that's just been kind of happening. People, you can easily say that 2020 is the worst year ever. But what I urge everyone to realize is that it's all about perspective. And
it is. Well, go ahead. I'll give you my point here in a second.
Yeah, and depending on where you're at in life right now, I know some people who are still furloughed, and it's easy to start to feel depressed and get into that state of mind where it's just well, I haven't worked in X amount of time, and this is how I feel, and I'm just really upset with myself, and I'm not satisfied. And you start just beating yourself up, and the world does a good enough job of beating you up for you. So
Yeah.
there's no reason for you to add on to it. So, like in terms of self-love, like I guess you have to develop and find like a mindset of mentality where it's just like you're capable of loving yourself, even when you don't necessarily feel like you're worthy of that love, or you feel less than a person, you know?
Right. No, for sure. Adler, you say a great point, with everything going on in this world. And, this is just, I'm going to take a couple steps back just to kind of build up to my point. But, in 2020, last year, I remember when we were sitting down and we were having a conversation about this podcast and kind of getting things going. And we started getting the works together, putting out a blueprint and laying out the plan as what we're going to do in 2020. Now, I want to just emphasize that 2020, when you think about vision, when you think about wearing glasses, you wear glasses. I wear glasses. I choose not to wear them. I just don't like them. I should be wearing them.
Context, it just depends.
It just depends on the day.
Yeah.
I should wear them, right? But the quick analogy, or the I guess the imagery that I'm trying to paint here for you to hear is the fact that when you have 2020 vision, right? You have the best vision. You have the most clearest in-depth vision that there is.
Yeah.
2020, even though it still seems very chaotic, very disruptive. And, when you turn on the news, it's just negativity all day long. Every single time you turn it on, we're hoping that with our podcast, when you turn on our podcast, there's this sense of hope. There's a reminder that you need to have that 2020 vision, because
the goal is to give like a weekly dose of positivity to every person that tunes into us, throughout the week. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, it's like, imagine if each episode per week is a drop of water. By the end of the year, the goal is to fill up a cup. It's like the one episode is tied to the next episode. Like the one we did with Coach, and going into that week and then going into this week, it's that sustainability that we're trying to build, which now looking back and coming back to where that we were talking about today, we have to face the fact that sometimes when we're going through something, we're talking about love right now, right?
Yeah.
And the question that we have been discussing actually off air quite a bit was how do we go past the superficial point? How do we get past just talking about, okay, loving yourself, or, okay, love is what you do, love is what you say. Like we've touched on those things. Those are very broad discussions that can that can dive into a lot more in-depth conversation. So I don't know if you've already asked this question. Maybe you have, but what's today's major question, man? Just as a reminder, if I don't think I heard it, to be honest with you, but if you ask the question, what is the question for today? What is our topic of discussion during 2020 with all this stuff going on that's going on? What is today's question?
The topic of
sorry, man.
Is basically, how do you love yourself when you don't feel like you're worthy of being loved, or you just don't feel like loving yourself, and you're down, you're depressed. And like for me, and this is just me, myself, I guess I started out by just answering it, is like, in order to love yourself, you have to know yourself, right? And sometimes it's easy to have that pitfall where it's like, because I feel a certain type of way, I'm reacting to the people around me in a certain manner. Like, and I know, and I'm coming from personal experience where when I don't feel like the best about myself, like I'm short-tempered with the people around me. I have a shorter fuse. I'm just like slightly annoyed. I'm like, come on, did you really say that? I get like just to a point where I'm kind of frustrated with the people around me or a certain situation, but I'm not really necessarily mad at that person. I'm frustrated because I'm actually frustrated with myself. And you have to be able to know yourself and identify when you're falling into those type of patterns. Because
right.
if you're attacking other people around you, then, one, you're going to drive people away. and two, you never actually deal with the root problem, you know?
Right. Well, no, and you make a great point. It's very true. Frustration, disappointment. You become very confused with the reality that you live in. It's one of my points that I wanted to talk about. Like, number one, we have to face the fact. We have to face the fact that sometimes you're going to fall, like you said, that it's that pitfall where you feel like you're not worth being loved. Or you're just like, it's just whatever. Like, I should just let it all go. Let it be,
Yeah.
But it's really the relationship that you have with your system. I'm reading off my notes here. The relationship that you have with yourself is the most defining factor in shaping the kind of life you want to live. You mentioned something really crucial, because I find myself doing the same thing. And I don't know if it's just a pattern, but it is also in my notes that I wrote here. And this is based off personal experience. The less that you love yourself, the less that you love you, the less that you listen to yourself, the less that you understand yourself, like knowing who you are, like you said, getting to know you, understanding who you are, the more angry, the more confused, the more frustrated you're going to be, because you're not really allowing yourself to be acknowledged. You have to face that you're going through something. You may feel like you're not being loved, that you're not worth it. And so we come to the conclusion that it's all just wrapped up and done, call it a day, it's over. And it's not. It's going to require work, because self-love is not easy. Loving yourself is not easy. If self-love was easy, would you say that everybody could do it just like that? I mean, I just know for me, I struggled for many, 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 many years. And we've talked about this on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
We come from two different walks of life, but very similar paths in such unique ways, Adler. We talk about this often on the show. But you've mentioned this to me. You are either the biggest cheerleader for yourself or you're your biggest critic.
Yeah.
And that's something I know you and I have discussed often on the show.
I'm guilty of being my worst critic, because I have such high expectations, and I set the bar for myself high, and not to be like pompous or to be like, like condescending or anything like that. But just, it's like I set goals for myself because I want to be successful. I want to be able to reach those high, aspirations, because that's just who I am at the core base of like my personality.
But that's loving you. That's loving you. You have your self expectation, because your entire life is lived through your own personal eyes. You get to experience what you want to experience.
Yeah, and I completely agree with where you're coming from. But like, there's a fine line between, loving yourself and having those high goals and aspirations, and loving yourself and having those high goals, aspirations, and, getting disappointed easily because you're not progressing as fast or as smoothly as you'd hope, and that's something for me. Like, I have to kind of challenge, like, and I fall into it all the time, where I feel like I'm not doing enough. I'm not, interacting with the people around me enough. I'm not doing something enough, and I have to challenge the feeling. I have to challenge, why do I feel the way I feel? Now, if I was, let's say if I was Finn and I was on the outside looking in, and to see where I'm at now, would I be happy? Would I be proud? How would I feel? And I have to challenge myself in that way, so that way I can be like, okay, well, I guess in the eyes of like, other people, I'm, not doing as bad as I think I am. But in my head, I'm just like, man, I have such high goals, and I have so many different things I want to do, Right.
So I want to ask you something, because you are the founder and the president of 24 Hours in a Day. You've launched this platform for people to be motivated through fitness, through dietary purposes, just wellness and health in general. And, you have a fantastic following on Instagram. And I know a lot of people interact with that, and people have been encouraged, inspired, and motivated and moved to make the change and the growth. Now, I want to ask you this, because I feel like this is a branch that we talk about often. You and I both like to work out. We like to go out and, climb mountains, or spend time in the gym, or, just at home. My question for you is, though, from your perspective and the people that you've interacted with, we talk about self-love, and exercising is something that we use either some people use it as a vain kind of thing, or you really genuinely just want to better yourself. Not to be cliche because we're the best U Nation, but my question for you, my guy, and this is just something that I, felt like would be appropriate for this. I'm sure you've had people who've experienced moments where they're looking at the gym, and maybe even yourself. I know you have a backstory as to why you're so driven. But when you, or yourself or anybody else who's worked out with you or may utilize your program, what is usually, where in their process do they get that spark of motivation, that reminder? Because I'm sure they go, oh man, like I'm struggling. I'm not seeing no change. I'm not seeing any kind of, any kind of progress. I still am trying to figure out where the six pack is. It's just not showing up. But can you share with us a little bit more about how like your 24 hours a day platform is really giving you an opportunity to see people in the flesh actually move through this conversation that we're having right now? Because I feel like you really probably experience that often yourself or maybe with other people.
I guess to answer your question, I've had people like, they reach out to me after, they'll just, say something along the lines of, hey, you're so motivating. It's so empowering just to hear and to see the things that you post. And I think that and it's my goal as, Team 24 is to motivate and to help shape your physical fitness, your mental fitness, and just to kind of overall this is why we did the Best You podcast, but it's overall to become the best version of yourself. And right. I find that when I physically feel a certain way, then mentally I'm also locked in place as well. So if I feel a certain way physically, then I'm like, oh, okay. So because I feel this way, I feel good about myself. But
I'm asking you that because people, this is just me asking you because I know for myself, I've experienced for me, when I go to gym, I recall a time where I'm working out, I'm eating a lot of chicken. I'm just putting myself out in the gym, working out as crazy as much as I can. And sometimes I'm like, dude, I see absolutely no progress. And it's is it because we're impatient or is it because we're trying to rush a process? These are the things that I feel like for you have so much leverage on because you have people who are wanting to develop a better lifestyle as far as the fitness aspect is concerned. How is it that you, through your own personal experience or people you've dealt with, your clientele, you've had to at some point have had people reach out to you say, this isn't working. I'm not seeing any progress. Because I feel like that's what we do with love. We do the same thing. We create this misconception of, I'm putting so much into me, but there's no results because we're still looking for some kind of unanswered question.
So the answer, I'm going to answer you right now. Okay. So I've had people ask me that. And before I give anybody a plan or anything like that, I tell them that you have to have the 3 C's, all right? You have to, this is if in terms of losing weight, right? I want to lose weight. All right, 3 C's, all right? Carb control, so you have to be mindful of the sugars you consume, and you got to make sure that they're complex carbs. The next C is cardio, so some form of cardio because your cardiovascular system plays a big, huge part of how your body is shaped. And 3, probably the most important thing, and you can transfer this to almost any aspect of life, is consistency. You have to
love that one, consistency.
You have to be consistent even when you don't feel like it. You have to be consistent even when it's easier to quit. It's not convenient. It's, the dieting is sucks. Everybody else is out there eating pizza and having cheesecake. Consistency is happening when nobody's looking and when everybody's watching, all at the same time. And that's something that you can't fake it. You can't consistency is either you have it or you don't. And I say those 3 C's will drive you to overall just change your whole entire body composition. In 2016, I sat close to 220 pounds. And now I sit here today, I'm about 185. And it's something that it took time for me to get there. I dropped as low as 175 pounds just to rebuild and just to kind of, get my body composition like this. So I know how hard it is. I get it. But at the same time, I realize that it's just about any person can do it. You just have to be actually willing to go out there and chase whatever goal it is that you have. And
So
this
no,
kind of this kind of ties into the self-love also.
so I was
Most
going to say, how could you? I was going to ask you, and how do you relate your 24 hours in a day platform to everyday life, especially the conversation, the topic that we have today? We're talking about, this whole concept of, yes.
No, I'm just saying like this. Your question is, how do I apply it to self-love, right? Basically, it's 2 words. Stop complaining. Now, that sounds harsh, but my idea is this. You cannot complain about something if you're not willing to change it. You have no right, because at this point, you're just complaining just for the sake of complaining. Now, if you're complaining just like, hey man, I'm working on this and it's not going fast enough, but it's okay. I'm gonna continue like pushing forward and I'm gonna keep doing whatever. Cool. By any means, you can complain away, but you're making the change. There at no point in time is it okay for any person in life to sit here and complain just for the sake of complaining. And the example that comes to mind, Finn, when you were down here, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, you were down here, and what was the phrase you kept saying pretty much all weekend?
I kept saying I'm bloated. I'm bloated.
And so, the first few times I heard it, I was like, oh, whatever. And as you were here for 4 days, I think by day 3.
Was it 4 days? I thought it was a long. Yeah, it was about 4. About 4 days.
4 days. By day 3, I was just like, hey, Finn, so you're complaining about being bloated, right? So unless you're actually willing to go change and do something about it, I personally don't want to hear it anymore. And I don't think it's kind of harsh to say that, but it's more so just like, all right, like I want you to start thinking. I'm complaining about something, but I'm not willing to change it. So
right.
Is it really something you should be complaining about if you're not willing to change it? That's just kind of how my mind operates. And
right.
What did you do?
Well, I got out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, and then you started working out, eating a little bit better, and then guess what happened? You weren't.
I wasn't bloated. Well, and I want to make a point on that. I'm gonna kind of add on to this. So yes, that experience of me complaining about being bloated, it was my birthday weekend, and I was just loving life, and I was enjoying it, but I was in a comfortable place. And then, I mean, we can sit here all day long. People who complain, and I'm gonna just make a point here. People who complain are in a comfortable place because they are not moving anywhere. And that sounds very weird. How can someone complain in a very comfortable place? Well, when you sit in a chair long enough, it's not comfortable anymore. So my point today, another point that I want to say here is being mindful. We talked about mindfulness last week as one of the pillars of love. Mindfulness is the key to escape from your emotional cage, right? And I'm sure you've heard this before, that people say that progress cannot be made unless you are put out of your comfort zone. You pushed me out of my comfort zone. You encouraged me and motivated me to see it from a different perspective. If you want to see change, get up, do something, be consistent, like you said earlier, and get out there and make the change. So this is one of the things that I want to talk about here real quick is if you're struggling to love yourself, then I'm also going to have to guess that you're staying inside your comfort zone. So today's discussion, we've been talking about loving yourself, whether it be working out, building a better relationship with yourself, understanding yourself a lot more, and getting to a point in life where you're becoming more aware of who you are. Being uncomfortable is going to push you to learn. It pushes us to be more aware and to really amplify the opportunity that we have to be more consistent, to see it from a different perspective. I will be honest. Results may vary. However, it also depends on your willingness, your willpower, really, and how much work you are going to put into. Like you said, back in 2016, you were sitting at a 210-pound weight, and you said, I don't want to be there anymore. How much was it?
Like 220.
Okay, so 220.
Yeah.
So you said, I don't want to be 220. I don't want to sit here. I will be honest with you. I'm going to share this real quick, just as a flip side thing, just as a side note. I actually sat at a lower weight. I was at about 115, 120 in 2016. And I said I felt like I was a little underweight. I'd always been underweight. So for me, it was actually gaining weight. So it's always interesting. There's always a yin and a yang in the situation. But one of the things I want to share with you real quick is somebody that led me in a part of my journey in my life to understand everything that we've been talking about today. It was, you got to come out of your comfort zone. Love is going to, if you put yourself in a cage, in a box, for the lack of better words, or for better words, you will never be able to experience what it is to have the full potential of love. Because love is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be awkward. It's going to make you feel a certain way. It's going to make you think about yourself a certain way. It's going to change perspective on a lot of things. And just as you saw yourself develop a better physique and a better diet, a better lifestyle, you felt like you had more energy. You were able to do more. Between 2016 and today, you probably are living your life so much more optimized, because not only were you able to construct a better lifestyle for yourself and love yourself better, you were able to take that and flip it and actually help other people reach their goals too. And so one of the things that I want to share with you real quick is something that my master sergeant told me at basic training. First day of training, he reminded us, he said, this is Master Sergeant Brooks, he retired actually, but he said, being uncomfortable is one of the greatest things that you can do in life. And that can be applied in so many different places, in so many different areas of life. And, with love, you've got to be willing to take that step out. And, I think if I sat here and said that, I didn't struggle with loving me, I would be lying. Because that's a really big part of my life, So it's all about putting in the work, man. I think that when we look back on what we focus here on the best you, it's being available to learn. It's being available to grow. It's being available to step out. And even when you feel like you're absolutely at the bottom of the most bottom, you have to sit back and acknowledge yourself. And like you said, stop complaining. You want change, get out there and do something.
Exactly.
Be accountable. So.
Well, and that's exactly what it is. If you want change, then you have to be willing to go out and get it. And I think the last point that I want to make before we go and wrap things up is so I'm harsh when it comes to complaining also, right? But I'm also really graceful when it comes to, you have to give yourself grace. You have to, because, you may not necessarily do all the things that you wanted to accomplish like for the day, but you have to give yourself grace for the fact that you accomplished so much in the day, and this is just one day where you weren't able to do it. That's all it is. It's just one day where you weren't capable of keeping your end of the bargain or whatever the deal.
Well, the accountability. It's the accountability that we talk about.
Exactly. And so you have to give yourself grace instead of like for myself, I have high standards for myself, and I have so many things that I want to accomplish. But at the same time, I also understand that if I don't accomplish it, it's not the end of the world. I have made a ton of progress. And that's how I was able to stay consistent from about 2017 on to now. I've been as consistent as I can be. I go just for specifically referring to what started off 24 hours a day, right? I felt insecure about my weight, and because I felt insecure about my weight, instead of complaining about it, I decided I wanted to do something about it. So I bought myself an Apple Watch, and I started to eat a lot differently than I ate before. I started introducing myself to more fruits, veggies, and stuff like that. And from there, I was able to get to a place where I was consistently working out. And for me, I started to love myself. It's like I fell in love with myself all over again, because I didn't have, I didn't have that self-love when I first started. And as I've progressed and I continue to grow and I continue to make it to that next like levels or steps, I have to always remember and be mindful that, hey, you know what? Even if you didn't work out like 5 times this week, you're still doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, and you're doing a very good job at it. So don't beat yourself up where it's because you're not able to go one day. And
Absolutely.
that was a big deal for me.
Well, in Adler, and I love that you share that with people and share that with me, because I know there's something that I wrote in my book, which I haven't really talked much about, and I'm actually needing to continue to write.
Yes.
I was thinking about releasing it out this year, but I didn't because A, we're focused on the podcast, and B, I felt led that I needed to spend more time with it. I have more content to write. Something that I wrote in my book and I actually pulled from it was this. Okay, there's 2 things I want to share real quick. So 2 little things before we wrap things up today. And this is really just kind of in a nutshell, because in order, like really what I got from that last part that you were sharing with us is accountability. In order for you to love yourself, you need to first, obviously, you got to face the reality. You got to face the fact. Second thing, you've got to find an action plan and go ahead and tackle it. And then number 3 is being, well, that's part of acknowledging. And the third thing is putting in the work. It's the stop complaining. Find a reason to get out of that mindset, because you're not doing yourself any justice by sitting there and saying, I don't love myself, I can't do this. You're not building your own credibility. You're not building yourself up. You're building yourself down. You're taking off bricks off the wall instead of adding bricks to make a stronger wall. But every time, this is something from my book, from one of my chapters here that I wrote, is every time you take action and achieve something, you build confidence in yourself. So imagine every time that you lost 10 pounds, every time that you lost 5 pounds, it didn't have to be some significantly high, like, oh, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. Well, life is about taking action. This is another thing from my book. It says life is about taking action and engaging in new experiences and achieving goals. And these goals don't have to be big. The smaller ones are perhaps more important. And if you say you're going to clean the house or take care of something for school or work, do it. That will make you happy. You didn't have to set a major goal about losing 100 pounds in a month. You said, I'm going to lose 5 pounds by the end of this month. And incrementally, you started to develop a routine. You felt better. You were happier. You were living life to the best that you could. You recognized your purpose. You recognized your potential. And so with love, you have to keep yourself accountable. At the end of the day, the most important person is yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to sleep with you at night. You have to get up and work. You have to take care of you. No one's going to do it for you. And so that's the part that we have to practice as people, is that we are not being spoon-fed to learn love. As hosts, we're not telling you how to live life. We are just simply giving you a perspective on how you can create better habits, how you can develop a mindset to overcome. And obviously, with what we always say, being able to optimize 24 hours a day, to manage your drive, and to live elevated every single day. Live today having a accountability mindset, no complaining, being consistent, and learning to love yourself, whether it means to shed away some of the old and allowing the new to grow. Because that's really, Adler, I don't know if you can agree anymore or add anything to that. That's really, at the end of the day, what this is all about.
Well, and I definitely agree with you, man. I think that we as a nation, we as people, need to do a better job of developing that self-love. Being able to identify, what our triggers are and why we feel the way we feel. And I think that's super beneficial. And, I definitely think that that self-love is probably the most important type of love, because if you can love yourself, then you can love others. If you can't love yourself, then it's impossible to, love somebody else. Like it's just not going to happen.
Well, I mean, the Bible even says that, and Coach Rick said that last week too. He said that love your neighbor as yourself. I think a lot of people get that scripture confused. They hear to love your neighbor first, and they think loving other people is the primary. No, the primary is to love you. So if you can't keep yourself accountable, if you can't stop complaining about your own problems, how are you supposed to help other people? So I guess long story short, everything in a nutshell that we talked about today,
Mhm.
I feel like there's this conversation you can't squeeze in 35, 40 minutes. This is just something that you can't. But I think we touched base on a lot of amazing things, and I think that our listeners are going to embrace. It's a question I think 75, 80% of people ask themselves, and maybe more now than ever because of everything going on. And
final thoughts.
yeah, absolutely.
If you don't love yourself, right, then you second guess everything that you do. And then, like, for example, if you have to make a life decision or whatever the case may be, you don't have the capability or capacity to answer that or take a chance because you don't love yourself. And then you're seeking validation from other people in order to be like, all right, okay, well, I think this is the direction I want to go because other people said that that's the direction I'm going to go. So
Right.
I urge every single one of you guys, just to identify why you feel the way you feel and just know that it's just temporary. And, we're all about progressing, making that progress. So
Absolutely.
that's all I have for today. And we're going to wrap things up. And we have, I think for the next episode, we have a special guest. I won't announce it quite just yet because I feel like we just got to set a date and a time. So once we figure that out, we can start to post on what's our Instagram.
So if for all you guys out there who are social media gurus, as you guys probably see, we are posting a lot more. Our Instagram handle is the correct term, I think. I just learned that this week, doing a little bit of homework. Is called the Best You Nation. Literally the Best You Nation. And what's so cool about that is it's nothing complicated. It's universal across our YouTube channel, Adler YouTube channel.
We have a Spotify.
We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcast.
What's the last one?
Well, there's several. There we have Google Podcast. I mean, there's so many. There's so many platforms. But most importantly, we want to stay connected with you guys. And obviously, we always stress this. We're not just a podcast. This is we talk, and yes, we have a show, but we really live in a lifestyle. Being the best you is not just something you listen to, it's something you do. Yeah. And so Adler and I are focused on that. We want you guys to be proactive, and we want to keep you accountable. In order for us to do that, interact with us on our social media platforms.
Feel free to reach out and ask us questions. We'll answer.
We're on Facebook too, by the way. So we just launched our Facebook page officially as well. So there's more room for growth, more room for interaction, more room for connection. Don't hesitate. Adler and I are here. You got a CEO and a founder of 24 Hours a Day, the CEO, founder of Live Elevated, which is a nonprofit organization focused on helping young people grow, develop, and becoming, cliche as it sounds, the best version of themselves by elevating people. So anyways, guys, Adler, it's been awesome, man, as always.
As always.
So we will see you guys through our social media and next week's episode.
Exactly. Love you guys.
Love you guys. Take it easy.